it's almost like they are getting their perception of a black person from what other people have told them rather than their own lived experience of what we're like. Basically putting on a costume of a stereotypical black girl or black woman, profiting off of our outrage, profiting off of the fact that we are too weak in the knees to stand up and say absolutely not. People like to use the phrases that are popular, but will still put black people down for using AAVE in general, especially if they are not phrases or words that are considered to be popular at the time. And you mean to tell me as soon as a white girl comes in and does it, that it's now something that is considered so trendy and so cute? Like, I do not care who you are. You simply cannot replicate or recreate black culture and do it like a black person can, period. So my question to you is, do you love black people or do you love black culture? Hey guys, what is up? It is Cam. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about what happens when black culture becomes a commodity. I've seen a lot of things all up and down my timeline about black culture and cultural appropriation and what happens when people take from black culture and use black culture for everything that it's good for, yet don't want to take any of the other struggles that come with actually being black. And to me, it's kind of disheartening to see that a lot of people really enjoy our culture but are not willing to speak up for us, that are not willing to actually acknowledge whenever they are using something that has come from our culture or partaking in something that is primarily within our culture. And it almost seems as if a lot of people like to use blackness as a come up, and then when it is no longer beneficial for them, they put it down and they throw it away, almost as if blackness within itself is sort of a costume. Because of course, in the society that we live in right now, there are so many things that come with being black, whether they are good or bad, and I feel like a lot of people use the good things that come with blackness in order to gain in some way. And so for me to see a lot of things up and down my timeline, whether it be certain trends, whether it be certain people on the internet acting a certain way in order to perpetuate a specific stereotype, and lots of other things that have a lot to do with black culture and the commodification of black culture, it really makes me kind of sad because of the fact that I feel like when normal black people act in this way or participate in these trends, a lot of the times we are demonized for it. A lot of the times we are put down for it or bullied for it or considered to be less than. But then whenever a non-black person decides to participate in the same thing or a very similar thing, they're of course praised, uplifted, and considered somewhat of a trendsetter or cool or edgy because of these things, and not actually acknowledging that the inspiration for whatever it is they're doing actually came from our culture. And I think that's the part that makes me the most upset, if anything. So I really want to get into it and break some of these things down because this is actually a topic that I'm quite passionate about, that I feel like is really important, at least to have a conversation about. So before we get into it, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you never miss another one of my uploads. You can also follow me on all of my social media. Everything will be on the screen and linked down below. And you can also subscribe to my second channel. That is my beauty and lifestyle channel. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So when I initially wrote somewhat of the script or the notes for this video, I called it the gentrification of black culture. And I actually ended up filming this like months ago, but I hated the way that it came out. So I'm redoing it. I went back, I refined my notes. I've come up with kind of a new term. Instead of using gentrification, I kind of want to use the word commodity, because I feel like gentrification does kind of hold a lot of weight as far as being a definition that can explain what is happening whenever it comes to people infiltrating black culture and kind of claiming it as their own. But I also feel like in another way, black culture has been commodified. It is something hot. It is something trending. It is something that everyone wants to be a part of, and in a sense where they want to be a part of it but don't necessarily want to partake in the struggle that comes along with looking like the people that are of it, if that makes sense. And so initially, when I started researching for this video and kind of doing a deep dive in this concept of like the gentrification or the commodification, I brought up a couple definitions because I feel like it's always good to start with a couple definitions. And the first one that I want to start with is the definition of gentrification. I'm going to read it off to you guys just so we can all be on the same page whenever it comes to this topic. So gentrification is the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. And there was another definition that fell underneath this word as well, and I'm going to read that to you guys too. It says, gentrification is the process of making someone or something more refined, polite, or respectable. And so of course, if we are going to talk about gentrification, we simply cannot talk about commodity. That is a whole point and reason that I'm making this video. And so the definition of commodity is as follows. A commodity is any useful or valuable thing, especially something that can be bought or sold. So the reason why I bring these two words up and why I kind of connect them very, very closely with Black culture is because I feel like they both fit and they both have their own place whenever it comes to how Black culture is treated at large by society. So whenever I think about these two words, the main thing that jump out and stand out to me is the fact that one of them talks about the process of making something more respectable and more polite, and then the other one talks about how something can be very useful, valuable, and especially if it can be bought and sold. And me personally, whenever I think about Black culture, especially in the context of like cultural appropriation or people just not really respecting the culture as a means of giving credit to those who actually created things from within a certain culture, and in this case it's Black culture, it's almost like you can profit and you can make so much money coming up off of Black culture, or you can profit and make so much money whenever it comes to trying to make Black culture more respectable and more palatable for non-Black people. It is insane the amount of non-Black creators, non-Black celebrities, and non-Black people just in general that have been able to benefit or profit from Black culture in and of itself without having to do anything except for perpetuate it. And in a lot of cases, they're perpetuating it very incorrectly and in a way that continues to put Black people, the people who are actually of that culture, in a negative light. So the first thing that I want to talk about whenever it comes to the commodification of Black culture is actually Black identity in and of itself, because I feel like Black identity obviously is very important to Black culture, and it is something that sticks out and stands out about every Black person that you could come across. I personally do not believe that Black people are a monolith, because I feel like not only do we come in so many different shapes, sizes, shades, literally everything, but so many personalities, interests, all types of stuff. Like, it is a spectrum, I feel like any other thing. And so whenever it comes to Black identity, I think some of the key things that tie us together are things like how we wear our hair. Black people have a very, very specific type of hair that I don't think any other group of people in the world have, and we have to treat it a certain type of way. And one of these ways in which we tend to express ourselves through our hair and to protect our hair and to treat our hair is by doing braided hairstyles. I feel like there has been a lot of controversy whenever it has come to hairstyles, especially braids, because Black people tend to push back on non-Black people wearing these hairstyles because they are so culturally significant to us. And it seems like people that wear these hairstyles that are non-Black do not understand the foundation and the root of the hairstyle, and it can be harmful when you're gaslighting someone into thinking that they're being sensitive because of a hairstyle that they hold near and dear to their heart culturally, especially considering they may have been bullied for, put down for, discriminated against because of this specific hairstyle. People that are non-Black are able to go about and wear this style freely without facing those same or similar repercussions.
One teacher decided to cut his afro into this style during school hours.
I'm gonna have to make this a series at this point, but here's another reason of why it's not just hair. Black children are getting pulled from their classrooms and expelled from schools and assaulted at school by staffs and their peers for their natural hairstyle. It's such a distraction when a Black person decides to put beads in their hair, to wear their natural hairstyles out. But yet non-Black people can put that on and take it off as if it's a costume, because that's apparently the only time Black hair is okay. But alas, I'm not surprised considering the fact that we were put in petting zoos for our hair to be petted on, and our hair was ripped out of our scalps and used as stuffing. So
when I say white girls shouldn't wear braids, I'm not saying that because I just don't want you to wear my hairstyles and I just want to gatekeep everything. I'm saying that because that contributes to a bigger societal issue that a lot of people don't want to recognize. Do y'all know how many people have grown platforms and careers and lifestyles and six-figure salaries off the Black aesthetic? Their lips, their butts, wearing darker makeup, tanning, wearing our hairstyles, saying our sayings, doing our mannerisms. And yet Black women that naturally are like that are being discriminated against, experience racism, lose our jobs, get harassed and killed by the police. So the more white people saturate our spaces, the less likely we are to receive the credit and the fair treatment for the things that we create. Think about it. If you have a white person and a Black person in the room, there's a chance that that white person could receive credit. But if there's no white person in the room, you have no choice but to give that Black person the credit. So it's not just a hairstyle. It's also a respect thing. This is something that white people still have not learned throughout history. You cannot be in everyone's space. You don't have the right to be in everyone's space. You have to learn to be okay with people telling you, no, you can't have this. This is ours. You did not go through what we went through to create these things, so we do not want you to participate. So yeah, I don't care if a white girl wears braids. I care that when she does that, that contributes to an issue in society that continues to affect my life.
And I specifically bring up the hair thing because for a long time, especially a few years ago, little black girls and little black boys were being suspended, expelled, banned from certain schools because they were wearing braids, like box braids, because they were wearing locks, and because they were not willing to press out their hair or perm their hair, and they wanted to wear their hair in its natural state, whether that be in an afro, a twist out, in classic little black girl styles and things of that nature. And so for us to get to a point in society where people are starting to more widely accept culturally black hairstyles such as braids or locks, and knowing the hurdles and steps that black people had to overcome in order for it to be acceptable for us to wear our hair that way in public, and then seeing non-black people just automatically getting a pass or even just being considered cool or edgy, being praised, being pedestalized for wearing these same things, it is extremely harmful. And I think a lot of the times these people don't even acknowledge where they're getting this style from, and if you call them out, then they will be upset that you have called them out, and they will make it seem like it's not as deep as it actually is. And another thing whenever it comes to hair I've noticed is that a lot of black women tend to be called out or tend to be reprimanded for not always wearing their hair, i.e. if they wear a lot of weaves and wigs. I know I've made a couple of videos in the past about black women hating their hair and having a conversation just about wigs and weaves. I think that conversation is important, but I also think it is important to acknowledge the disparities that black women face whenever they wear these certain hairstyles, because people will go after them and accuse them of trying to be white or trying to be some other ethnicity just because they are not necessarily wearing their natural texture. Yet no one goes against a white woman or a woman of another race that's not particularly black about wearing extensions, because let's be honest, there are a lot of non-black girlies wearing extensions and that can wear extensions and that get away with wearing extensions and nobody bats an eye. But as soon as a black girl decides to get a sew-in, or as soon as a black girl decides to get a weave or wear a wig, then everybody all of a sudden has something to say about it, and I don't think that's fair. And don't get me started on the edges, because edges were ghetto, edges were ratchet, edges were bad up until y'all decided at some point that edges were cute and that they were cool and that they were fashionable, and then other people start to do them, you know? Okay.
So she can't make her mind up, and that's on God.
But at the same time, you have non-black girlies being praised for doing something, in this case edges, that black girls have always kind of been put down for. And it's something, like I said before, that isn't right. And so kind of going more so into this conversation, I want to kind of speed it up because I do not want to be here all day, you guys. But going into the conversation about identity, I want to touch on accessories a little bit, because I know there are certain accessories that are closely tied with black culture that, again, are deemed as being ghetto when we do it, but trendy when non-black people do it. And one of the first accessories that come to my mind are probably the very big hoop earrings. Another accessory that comes to my mind are probably the nameplate necklaces. I know you guys know what I'm talking about.
Trends that you love that were started by the melanin queens. Let's get into it. First up, we have nail art. 2 words, flojo. Now, while the modern manicure dates back to Egyptian times and long nails to the historic Inca Empire of South America, what we now call a full set was brought to the pop culture stage by black women. And of course, we have Auntie Flojo here, who back in 1988 broke the 100-meter race. However, everybody was staring at homegirl's nails, and from there, everybody was getting their nails like Miss Flojo here. And then we have my personal favorite, hoop earrings. Can we just give our melanin queens a round of applause for popularizing the hoop earring? Conceptually, hoop adornments date back all the way to Nubia and ancient Egypt. It can be modernly attributed to the likes of Nina Simone and Miss Angela Davis. And then we have nameplate jewelry. Now, when this necklace debuted on this famous show, the stylist had said she got the inspiration from kids in the neighborhood wearing them, and it spread like wildfire and everybody wanted the Carrie necklace, when in fact this nameplate jewelry, from necklaces to earrings, have been the pinnacle of Hispanic and black culture since New York in the 1970s.
This isn't pop culture. It's black culture, and our parents created this to put some respect on our name. Fashion trends started by black culture PT3.
certain things within that same realm that, again, considered ghetto when we do it, but apparently it's cool, apparently it's revolutionary, and apparently it's fine and dandy whenever non-black people do it. And then getting into AAVE, which is probably one of my favorite topics. I made a video on this like 2 years ago, but I took it down because there were a lot of coming in to my comment section just acting crazy, and I feel like I was not as thorough as I should have been in that video, and I did not pull up with as many facts as I should have. But let's get into it, because I remember having a conversation with one of my friends about a year ago about this very topic, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. Actually, I particularly don't always like and prefer when non-black people use AAVE, because I feel like it is heavily cherry-picked. There are definitely certain phrases and certain words that become very, very popular on the internet, especially if we're considering TikTok to be a catalyst, and people just use them. And sometimes, you know what, I just gotta accept it for what it is. Like, people are going to use words, people are going to consider them to be things that were created by Gen Z, that were founded on TikTok, all sorts of things. But I will personally die on this hill. AAVE is cherry-picked so much to the point where people like to use the phrases that are popular at the time, but will still put black people down for using AAVE in general, especially if they are not phrases or words that are considered to be popular at the time.
So apparently people need a video series on AAVE and why it's wrong to be a culture vulture that exploits it for clout. So AAVE is an acronym for African American Vernacular English, and it's a dialect of English that formed in the South amongst enslaved black Americans, was passed down for generations, and moved throughout the country as we did. According to research from Oxford, its formation was first recorded all the way back in 1734. AAVE includes both grammatical structures and vocabulary, commonly mislabeled as slang, that both follow tradition and are constantly evolving. Those of us who grew up exposed to AAVE can intuitively tell when it's spoken right, spoken wrong, and spoken inauthentically. It's like if I moved to Sweden and started speaking Swedish, even for the rest of my life, no matter how hard I tried, native speakers would be able to tell that I didn't grow up speaking Swedish because they would have generations of cultural context that I don't have. And it's the same thing for AAVE, which is why we know when a lot of you guys are faking it or forcing it. 2, for centuries, black people have been oppressed and demeaned for using AAVE. Like in schools, children are told that speaking AAVE isn't proper or legitimate. In 1979, a lawyer successfully sued the Ann Arbor School District because black students are facing academic discrimination because they spoke AAVE. Even more recently, Rachel Jeantel, who was giving a key testimony about Trayvon Martin's killing, was speaking in AAVE and subsequently had her testimony ignored and called not credible. According to a Stanford linguist, this was a factor in George Zimmerman's not guilty verdict. Black people in America specifically have been racialized on the idea that we are inherently lazy, poor, uneducated, or criminal. And thus, our use of AAVE has been stigmatized as sloppy, unprofessional, or ignorant. And that's simply not the case for non-black people who are seen as funny, sensational, or cool when they use it.
Things like period, things like it's giving. Another one that I feel like that has just come up that is actually quite popular, I feel like I've been saying this, but listen, it's popular on TikTok now, so clearly Gen Z created it, is the be for real. Be serious, yeah.
BFFR. What does that spell?
Be for real.
This phrase has taken over social media, with this tweet with over 160,000 likes calling it the best phrase to come out of 2022. But as the replies were quick to point out, this phrase is much older than that. Welcome to another episode of How Everything Gen Z Does Originate with Black People, where we talk about how most of what we know as Gen Z culture is just a whitewashed version of Black American culture. So you can think the current popularity of the phrase BFFR to users like Jaden Nicole, who I put at the beginning of my video. But as Jaden points out, the use of her sound as an audio came without credit because another account took her audio and reposted it without tagging her. But preceding this, the use of the term skyrocketed in April of 2022 when a user named Hey Romaji posted an edited version of a sound taken from a live from Rochester, New York rapper Slump Sixes.
Be fucking for real. Be fucking for real. Be fucking for real. Be fucking for real. Be fucking for real.
And one of the earliest viral uses of the sound came from when TikToker Lilo Aleph posted it with an overlay that says, "Everyone hates me and I don't know why." But if we really want to go back in time, the earliest found use of this term on the internet is from this tweet in 2013 by user Kiss the Cook. But that doesn't mean the person coined the phrase per se. As with many of the phrases, terms, and diction popularized by Black Americans, sayings like BFFR floated around our communities for a long time before they found their way to the internet. For example, American R&B group Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes had the clean version of the phrase "be for real" as the title to their song song that was recorded in 1972. And as many people have pointed out, it can feel uncomfortable when all of a sudden people outside of our culture adopt parts of it as a trend. But it was probably only a matter of time before this happened, because if we know one thing is true, it's that Gen Z loves co-opting African American English, sadly at the expense of being ignorant to its meaning and significance. And if you're headed to the comments because you don't see the importance of this critique, I have a whole Forbes magazine article as additional reading.
But anyway, whenever it comes to AAVE, I feel like black people get a lot of slack and a lot of just like negative backlash for not speaking proper English without people considering that AAVE is an actual dialect and it has its own set of like grammatical rules and standards.
I'm gonna keep this short and simple because I'm honestly just sick and tired of y'all really coming for us. But still failing to realize how to educate yourself and how to actually go Google things. Sis, this concept of gatekeeping AAVE is not new. For example, the N-word. If you would educate yourself about word reclamation, the black community, quote unquote, reclaimed the N-word, took off the ER, and that's how we came up with the slang term that we call each other for endearment every single day. And since when have you known white people to be able to say that? Now I understand the controversy when it comes to things like the word sis or slay or period. But let's be real, anytime that we talk like that or talk in AAVE, quote unquote, improperly, we were considered ghetto, we were considered unprofessional, this, that, and the third. But now all because Lucy, Brian, and Amy want to decide to use the words, oh, it's cute, it's quirky, it's trendy. Slay, sis. Now let me get more into that. When black women call each other sis, that is another form of endearment. As in sister, as in sisterhood, aka black sisterhood. Same thing with brother. Black men has always called each other brother instead of brother. Hence why we took the ER off the N-word. The thing that I really don't understand is everybody has different cultures. And in with those cultures, they have different languages. But I guess because African Americans speak English, that is not considered a language, which is not true at all. And for the ones that don't know what AAVE stands for, it stands for African American Vernacular English, and it does exist. The origin of AAVE came from the simple fact that when Africans were brought to America, we didn't even know how to speak English. So we were taught English, or we had to learn English on our own. That's why we don't say English words as proper, or that's why we don't speak English as proper as the average white person. But before you try to come for us about gatekeeping in our culture, educate yourself. We do not sit here and tell anybody else how to gatekeep or what they can and cannot gatekeep. So why do y'all always do it to us? Stay in your lane. Black Americans give piece and piece of their culture every single day and still don't get credit for it to this day. And that is the main reason why Black Americans gatekeep in the first place. Because every time we do try to give our culture out to other people, they sabotage it, call us ghetto for it, and then turn around and do the same thing that they called us ghetto for. It makes no sense.
And this is the thing that makes me so upset whenever it comes to this, because I still see black women and black girls and just black people in general being discriminated against because of the way that they speak, when it is so clearly AAVE. And then you got the girlies on TikTok saying all types of stuff and people eat it up. They love it. And it is very sad to me. I'll just say it is very, very sad to me. And the last thing that I kind of want to get into whenever it comes to black identity, because I feel like we gotta wrap this up, is about mannerisms. And boy, do I know something about mannerisms. I feel like I have gotten a lot of comments in my videos about me talking too much with my hands and just being a little bit too extra on here with the hands. And you know, I take offense because I feel like part of that is a part of my culture. Like I literally cannot, like sometimes I'll try and sit here and be pretty and be cute without doing all of that, but I feel like not even just whenever it comes to hand gestures, but also whenever it comes to just the way that we act, period. Facial expressions tend to play a large role. Again, I know a very, very large thing whenever it came to black girls, especially just within these recent few years and the rise of the city girls, has been the whole period thing. Like please, please, please. And on TikTok, like this thing, that, come on now. Okay, but I feel like whenever it comes to mannerisms, it almost feels like a mockery when other people do it or partake in it or try to use it in a way that is not contextually correct, in a way that is not necessarily socially correct, and just lots of other things. And one thing particularly that comes to my brain whenever I think about mannerisms and even AAVE beauty, and even hairstyles, accessories, things like that. Britt Barbie. The period girl. Can I please talk about it just for a second? Because I feel like whenever it comes to stuff like that, I think the main reason why people like that tend to go viral and tend to be able to take up space and tend to be able to be a representation of what blackness is because we allow them that platform to be able to do that. We give them views, we give them attention. If we were to just pass up on it like it was any other regular black girl doing the same thing, then these people would not try and use it as much as they do in order to get out and get ahead and in order to get a leg up on the game. Like, it is the same thing with Danielle Bregoli, Bad Baby, how she was going on that Dr. Phil show acting all ghetto and ratchet, acting like a stereotypical black girl, and the black people kind of went crazy over it, and that craziness was converted into her having an audience, her having people that were following her, trying to see what she was going to do next and what she was up to, and in turn that created a career for her where she was able to become basically a millionaire off of acting like a stereotypical black person, off of acting like a caricature.
Yo, we gotta stop making these white cosplayers famous.
Period, 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 period.
Okay, I'm internally disturbed. Yo, when are we gonna move out of this 2017 mindset of making shit famous? I'll never understand y'all. Like, sincerely, what is so funny about mocking black women, and why are we boosting her shit? Like, check me out, I love Speedy Mormon, but what the do she know about journalism? It's so crazy to me how the roots of menstrual shows have never left American culture. Still so prevalent. And sidebar, why the does she keep moving her hair like that? It's not going nowhere.
This is what happens when we give white women attention for pretending to be black women. They start to believe it and they start to imitate us. This is very problematic. She wants to be a light-skinned black woman, but not the oppression of a dark-skinned black woman.
And the same thing is happening with this Britt Barbie girl, where she is getting opportunities, where she is getting recognition, where she is getting visibility because she is basically putting on a costume of a stereotypical black girl or black woman, and she is profiting off of that. She is profiting off of our outrage. She is profiting off of our shock and our disbelief, profiting off of the fact that we are too weak in the knees to stand up and say absolutely not. Because I feel like a lot of black celebrities were basically co-signing her by duetting her and stitching her and all of those other different things, giving her more and more visibility, giving her more and more push out into the algorithm. And then when it came to the person who she was pretty much mocking with the period, Carisha was like, absolutely not. And I feel like that is saying something, because I feel like Carisha is someone a lot of the times that is put down, that is shamed for acting the way she does as a black woman, yet as soon as a non-black woman goes on to act the same way, people are praising her. And she had the bandwidth to get on the internet and say, this is wrong, I will not be participating, I will not be co-signing, I will not be giving my stamp of approval, because she is clearly mocking me, is clearly using things from our culture, using mannerisms, using language from our culture in order to make fun of us, and people are literally allowing her to do so without saying anything or without calling her out, and it's wrong. So after talking about all of that, we're going to cruise on over into stereotypes, because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand whenever it comes to black identity, because like I said before, black identity seems to be something that people feel like they have fully figured out, and they like to categorize and typecast black people into one little box. And like I said before, black people are not a monolith. We are not a monolith. We are not all the same. And I think if you hang around more black people, you will learn that about black people. But I want to get into stereotypes, because I feel like this is a very large reason why people are able to come into black culture and they are able to use it as something that is profitable for them, but that is damaging for us, and use it as something where they can make it more palatable for people that do not look like us. Okay, so before I get into stereotypes, I want to go ahead and read an excerpt from an essay that I found online. It's titled, "Do You Love Black People or Do You Love Black Culture?" And the beginning of this essay really hit home for me, because I just felt like it was hitting the nail on the head on a lot of the points that it was making as far as black people and their culture. So I'm going to read a little bit of it for you guys, just so you can have some context on what I'm talking about. Could you imagine your existence only being relevant for the identity theft of your creativity? The Black/African American culture is appropriated every day by not just white people, but also non-black minorities. Appropriating culture is the social equivalent of plagiarism and adapting to an element or elements of one's culture or identity. It's not a problem to borrow from our culture, but you also have to know appreciating and appropriating have two completely different meanings. White people will take our hairstyles, fashion, vernacular, and skin tone without permission or give the credit, and will rock it like they started a phenomenal trend, but will degrade the true meaning of the culture's components. Unfortunately, when the black community showcases black culture, we are less valued for rocking our culture that white people and non-black minorities stole. If white people and non-black minorities are the problem, then they have to be our solution. And the appropriation of black culture is very significant, because there are numerous ways you can harm a black person when doing so. We've been denied education, work, healthcare, shelter, and more, all because of our cultural components that whites are applauded for when we are discriminated against. When you have huge celebrities appropriating black culture like it's nothing, of course it'll be justified and defended. People have always provided others who have a platform with excuses for their unacceptable behavior as if they're superior to someone who works at McDonald's. Social media will accept a white girl with cornrows over a black girl with the same exact cornrows because they favor black culture but not black people. It is extremely important for people to know about this because the favoritism towards white people and non-black minorities against black culture can be extremely dangerous to the black community because the racism that is dealt with is ignored. Obviously, feeling mocked, othered, and judged aren't as serious as being in danger, but if you don't see that as an issue, then you are the problem and don't consider black people human. It's just human decency and black people deserve to be treated with it too. So my question to you is, do you love black people or do you love black culture? And so the reason why I wanted to read this kind of before getting into the conversation of stereotypes is because I feel like it falls right in line with the fact that people so badly want to mimic black culture, but they do it from the perspective that is a stereotype and that is a very, very exaggerated one. It's almost like they are getting their perception of a black person from what other people have told them rather than their own lived experience of what we're like. And I think it's so interesting to see how people perpetuate blackness, especially in the media, considering that, like I said before, black people are not a monolith and we do not all act the same, and a lot of the times we don't even act like what the stereotype is that is portrayed against us.
Being black is not just, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but being black is not just the color of your skin. It's like, and I know you've been to Africa and everything like that, but it's a cultural thing. Me and Vince, like we, you know, African Americans, you know, we are descendants of slaves, and our ancestors endured a lot, went through a lot of things, fought for their place in society when they were considered like animals at one point. And that's our heritage that allots us the privilege of calling ourselves black and being proud in the skin that we wear because we were born with it, and the people before us laid the foundation for us to be that way. You know what I'm saying?
And I want to add to that one thing too is in a sense, like, how could you feel like you identify with that if, you know, just by changing the color of your skin?
While I feel like every stereotype does hold some truth to it, I think that a lot of the times people like to use the most exaggerated versions of things in order to make a point and then get their point across. Which of course is not fair because it's like you're almost using the extreme of something, or you're using the outlier of something in order to represent the entire group, which should never be the case. And I think this is also another thing that is super important to talk about whenever it comes to this as well, because I feel like black people have created a lot of safe spaces for themselves, particularly online, because there's a whole disparity with being pushed in the algorithm whenever it comes to being a black creator, with being silenced for talking about issues that you deal with as being a black person, and all different sorts of things. So of course we have tried to create safe spaces for ourselves in order to enjoy our time, just as other groups have spaces for themselves in order to enjoy their time. And it seems like these spaces are typically always infiltrated because a lot of the time people will not allow us to have something without being able to also partake in it as well. And one thing that I think is very, very interesting about this is the fact that a lot of people participate in certain memes and a kind of digital blackface without even knowing it. I personally, sorry, this may be a little bit TMI, but I personally have a meme folder on my phone. Any of my friends can tell you this. It has all the memes. It's great memes. If anybody wants to know about my meme folder, email me and I can send you some memes because I have the best memes on my phone. But a lot of the times it is going to be of black women or black men or just black people in general making certain expressions, doing certain things, because of course I am black, I am a part of that culture, and a lot of the times the way in which I express myself, the way in which I react to certain things is going to fall in line with the memes that I have saved on my phone. But I see a lot of non-black people also using these memes in order to express, and I feel like it is a form of entertainment. It is maybe the butt of a joke in some cases because it is basically using blackness and black people as a way to express very exaggerated emotions. And maybe I'm reaching when I say this, but I feel like the reason why it is so important to discuss digital blackface and things like that is because of the history of blackface in and of itself whenever it comes to things like minstrel shows and caricatures put on by non-black people in order to represent black people.
So I want to talk about this video that recently made the rounds on TikTok, and why, although at face value it may appear to be just another viral humoristic trend, it's actually quite problematic. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to send any hate to the original creator. I thought I'd just use this opportunity to talk about why that video and others like it perfectly encapsulate what's called digital blackface. Digital blackface, a term coined by Joshua Lumpkin Green in 2006 and popularized by Lauren Michelle Jackson, is when non-black folks use black emojis, GIFs, or AAVE to represent themselves, their emotions, or their opinions online. And because internet culture is so steeped in black culture and exaggeration is practically its driving force, digital blackface has become a far-reaching phenomenon in recent years. You see, due to the rise of TikTok, digital blackface is no longer just text-based or image-based. Nowadays, creators can embody blackness, and as we've seen, it's a proven attention getter. But the problem with that is that while some users may do it out of love for black culture, it's still a love based on caricature. It singles down black people to a monolith and promotes stereotypes of black people in the process, namely that they're overly animated, loud, or ghetto. For example, when non-black creators use audio featuring black voices, most of the time they put on an entire performance, pairing the audio with hyperbolic expressions and gestures, or in this case, adopting black voices to spice up their online personas. Why? Because society's perception of black emotional expression is that it's bigger, louder, and overly dramatic. It may seem funny at first, but it's still damaging because most of these non-black creators probably don't express themselves that way in real life. Yet many black people do, and they're penalized for it. Digital behaviors don't exist in a deracialized vacuum. In fact, caricatures of blackness morph the way that others view black folks. For example, in real life, a black woman could actually lose her job for expressing herself in a way that others perceive as sassy or angry. For some, speaking in a black accent gets them fame or virality, but for African Americans, it gets them put in a box and labeled as ghetto. As Jason Parham writes, the mask of blackness can't be worn as a joke without reaching into some deep cultural and historical ugliness, namely that of minstrel shows, but I'll get more into that in part 2.
Hi, Benji here, and I'm going to explain what digital blackface is. Digital blackface is when non-black people use images or emojis of black people to express emotion online, often extreme ones like anger or disbelief. Sometimes images are edited to indicate blackness for this purpose. The intent may be innocent, but digital blackface, like the original use of blackface, exploits blackness through media for entertainment. The overuse of these images also reinforces negative stereotypes that drive racial discrimination. We can use images of people that are a different race. It's okay to enjoy popular culture. We should just be conscious of the impact the media that we share online may have on communities with less privilege. For example, if you find you always use images of black women to express sass, consider the negative stereotypes you're reinforcing and how this might reflect your own unconscious biases, and try a different image next time.
Cause no, let's talk about it. What the fuck is this? We can't forget about these. What is bro even protecting? His thoughts? This shit look mad goofy, bro.
And then another thing that I notice as well whenever it comes to safe spaces is probably the natural hair movement. And I have a video about the Follow the Natural Hair community. It is currently up on my channel. I have a couple videos about natural hair on this channel, so if you guys want to check those out, you definitely can. But I feel like another safe space that was highly infiltrated by non-black people was the natural hair movement, because of course it was something that was started by black women with type 4 hair in order to learn how to love and appreciate their hair and care for their hair, and just kind of trying to, I don't know the word, but it's unassimilate themselves. Is it disassimilate? Is it I don't know. Basically trying to move forward without having to feel like they need to assimilate into standard white American culture in order to be accepted and to be valued. And after a little bit of time, of course, this was infiltrated by non-black women, and it left no room for the people that actually started the movement and that needed it the most. I just kind of felt the need to come on here and just very quickly address the current controversy that's going on with the natural hair care brand Mielle Organics, because there has been a lot of stuff on TikTok that has just been going crazy, especially in the last couple of weeks. And because I filmed this video before any of this stuff happened, I want to just get into it. Now, long story short, the people found the rosemary mint hair and scalp oil by Mielle Organics, and they started buying it everywhere, sold it out, and now the black girlies do not have access. They are worried that because of this, the formula is going to be changed, the company is going to sell out, etc, etc, etc. So they're expressing these concerns on the internet, on top of the fact that the non-black girlies that have gone out and bought this oil, mass bought this oil literally in droves to the point where it's sold out, have been coming on the internet basically saying that the oil is bad, it's making their hair fall out in clumps, it's too oily, all different types of stuff. I will put examples on the screen so you guys know what I'm talking about. But like, they're coming on here, I feel like kind of dragging the oil, but also on the other hand, because it got so popular, like they're literally selling it out like people have not been able to find it anywhere. And once they finally were able to restock it in places like Target, they started putting that oil in the white hair care sections, like in masses. I've never seen that much Mielle hair oil in Target, even on the black shelf. I want to just quickly address like my thoughts towards it because I think it plays heavily into the conversation that we're already having in this video. Things that are very pertinent to our culture and pertinent to us as Black people tend to get stolen or taken or whatever. And I think the issue, or at least my issue with this situation, is not necessarily that these girls are going out and buying this oil and using this oil and trying this oil and that it got popular. On one hand, yes, that is a problem because you're literally taking away access to products of people that typically don't have a lot of access to products because our hair care aisles are already so short. A lot of the non-Black girlies are gaslighting the Black girls about the way that they feel about what is happening with the hair oil. Like, they are not legitimately hearing their concerns. They're just basically saying, well, it's just oil, it's just products, we should be able to use it too. And a lot of Black girls are upset. That's the issue that I have. It's not about you using it. Whenever it comes to products that are meant to be catered towards the Black community and they're sold out by white people finding out about them almost like they discover something new, I think that's also a problem because you did not discover anything new. This was already here before you got here. You're just now finding out about it. You know what I mean? Whenever it comes to Black hair care, especially in stores, it's a long time coming, even the amount of products that we have now. And sometimes you'll see a whole aisle filled or a half of an aisle filled with Black hair care products. That has not always been the case. That was not the case like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like nothing. You would have to go to the hood beauty supply stores in order to find products for Black hair care. You could not go into any major retailer and find hair product for Black hair. And so recently, especially considering the rise of the natural hair movement, there are more products being made to cater specifically to our hair type because we do have a very specific kind of hair type that requires a very specific kind of care. And so as these products continue to be created and continue to be rolled out and put on the shelves, our hair care aisle is growing. But whenever it comes to our hair care aisle and the point that I mentioned before about us not always having hair care, non-Black people and white people, people that don't have super kinky, coily, curly hair, y'all have always had products for you. There has never been a time where you have not had product that would work on your hair type. The products that are marketed towards y'all and catered towards y'all are literally things that would end up making our hair dry out, brittle, and break off. It literally will not work. It does not work. And that's the reason why we had to have products specially formulated and specially catered to our specific hair type. And so having these products and having them being brought into the mainstream stores or the top retail stores in order for us to be able to consume is something that was incredibly important. Like, just flat out dead, incredibly important. And it's so discouraging. It's heartbreaking actually to see people not even willing to try and understand and grasp the idea that Black people have not always had a hair care aisle, and Black people's hair care aisle even today is still very limited. White people can have a whole both sides of the aisle of their hair care products just filled up, whereas whenever it comes to Black hair care, a lot of the times we only get a quarter of an aisle or a half of an aisle, and if we're lucky maybe we'll get a full side of an aisle, but it's never as much as the other people. And so for y'all to go into our hair care section and literally commodify products that were created especially for us. Nobody is saying Black people are trying to gatekeep rosemary. Nobody's saying Black people are trying to gatekeep peppermint or whatever the case may be. Nobody is saying Black people are trying to gatekeep oil. Nobody is saying that. What we are saying, however, is that this particular product was created by a company that was founded and started by a Black woman that is run by a Black woman, and she was creating products for Black hair, period. And these products are meant to be catered specifically to our hair. They're in our hair aisles. These things were created for us, by us, to cater to us in our aisles where we already don't have a lot of stuff. And y'all could literally go anywhere and get something for your hair, in an aisle for your hair. I think it's wrong to tell Black women that they are not allowed to be upset. I think it's wrong to tell Black women that they're trying to gatekeep rosemary and gatekeep putting oil in your hair. Nobody's trying to gatekeep that. Love to act too dense and they refuse to educate themselves, like Google is free. But I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna let y'all watch the rest of the video.
Let's talk about this controversy surrounding the Mielle hair oil and why these non-Black women with straight hair are are selfish for doing this. So I went to the store and it was gone. And my thing is, these are all the products that they can choose from. And I didn't even film all the aisles. This is just one of them, and I'm still going. And per usual, y'all never had a problem with your products until our products became trendy. But instead of using oils like this cater to your hair, you choose to sell out ours and then make videos like this.
How I use the Mielle rosemary oil on my hair.
Can't even pronounce it right, let alone use it right. Then you post bad reviews, which leads a lot of companies to change the formulas to cater to your hair, and it no longer caters to ours. So we just lost another black hair brand. Like, I wanted to buy the oil to review it for you guys, so when you search a black hair product, you wouldn't just see this, but now I can't even do that.
And I think when this concern was brought to the forefront and was talked about, a lot of the times these black women were told that, oh, you know, it's not that deep, like non-black women have curly hair too, and da-da-da this and da-da-da that. But it's like, you have to understand that when someone creates a space for themselves, it's not okay to come in and infiltrate it and take it and use it for your own personal gain rather than to want to be a part of it. I think that is okay, but to just completely come in and change the entire thing without acknowledging the people who brought it to the forefront and started it is actually wrong, and it's actually harmful. And so getting into the black aesthetics of it all, because I simply love black aesthetics. I simply love black aesthetics. I simply love being black, you know, because I feel like it is something so special about the way that we are just as people that I feel like no matter how hard people try, like it simply cannot be replicated. Like, I do not care who you are, you simply cannot replicate or recreate black culture and do it like a black person can, like period. Because there is just something so special about our people. It gives them a certain, this word is so played out, but it gives them a certain kind of swagger. It gives them like so good, so good. And so I want to talk about black aesthetics really quick because I think black aesthetics are amazing. And my issue whenever it comes to the gentrification of black aesthetics or the commodification of black aesthetics is the fact that, like I said, same thing with AAVE, it is definitely treated as a buffet table. People love to cherry pick the things that they want to take and leave the things that don't benefit them. And it feels highly, highly, highly disposable for people if you are non-black. It is so easy to say, I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, and take what you want and go, and then leave the people who are actually having to deal with these sorts of things on a regular basis to pick up the pieces and to clean up after the storm that was left in your way, especially when these things don't benefit them. And whenever I'm seeing cultural appropriation, whenever I'm seeing people use blackness as a way to come up, it reminds me of a costume. It reminds me of a caricature, because these people can just put it on and take it off whenever it benefits them, and when they no longer need it, it's so easy to just like take it off and put it back on the shelf. Like someone like me who is living in my skin, who is living in my body, I cannot take off my blackness and put it on the shelf. It just simply does not work that way.
The Kardashians fetishize black women's features and adopt their aesthetic without actually having to live the black experience. They've been called out for cultural appropriation multiple times, yet choose to hide behind the fact that they have relationships and children with black men rather than addressing the problem at hand. Having kids with black people doesn't automatically shield you from being culturally insensitive. That's not how it works. Simply wearing something because you like it isn't always okay. We don't live in a post-racial society yet, so in order to appreciate something, it's important to know and understand its history. And the Kardashians all too often decide to sport something or morph into it without acknowledging the historical and racial context of the culture they're taking it from.
However, when people like to cherry pick our culture and cherry pick our aesthetics, it is so easy for them to take what they want, take what they like at the time, take what is trending at the time, put it on, and then when it's no longer trending, when it's no longer considered cool, especially I think as this sort of idea of blackness being just so cool and things like that have been going on for the past couple years, whenever that fades out, which I feel like inevitably, eventually it will, you're going to learn so quickly who is actually for the culture and who is actually not for the culture, because everyone who is not for the culture is going to take off that costume and they're going to put it back on the shelf and they're going to go on about their quiet, nice, non-black life. And I feel like that is just the fact of the matter here, and it is heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, not only to see people that look like me being discriminated against and devalued for having certain aesthetics about themselves, again, like I said, whether it be vernacular, whether it be the way that we dress, whether it be the way that we act, and then people that don't look like us being able to do those exact same things and get nothing but praise and be considered so revolutionary for doing it. Do you know what I mean?
I already know people are going to be mad about this one. Non-black people, specifically white people, getting black features cosmetically will never sit right with me. I've talked about it before, but I think fake tanning is weird. Your natural tan is how you should look, it's how you're made, and getting aggressive tans is anti-black. Along with this, getting surgery to make your body appear how black women's bodies have always appeared, along with lip injections, eye surgery to make yourself look more racially ambiguous, is literally accepted cultural appropriation. It's cosmetic blackface. I think when it first started rubbing me the wrong way was when someone said I had a Kardashian body type. No. This is homegrown, all natural, never work done. Don't ever compare it to cosmetic surgery, ever in your life. But also just the features that the black community has been bullied for now being accepted on non-black people isn't sitting right.
It's like white people and non-black people are praised for the same thing that we are demonized for. Like, they are literally paid money. They profit off of these things while we are paid nothing but dust and crumbs. And one thing that comes to mind, because I love to have examples for you guys, so y'all don't try to gaslight me in the comments. I love to have examples for you guys. A lot of the things that I've seen on TikTok about certain black aesthetics that have been taken and infiltrated, the clean girl aesthetic, because you cannot tell me that this was not primarily a black thing and a Hispanic thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, the clean girl aesthetic, I've seen that before. Is this the remix? Is this the remix? I've seen that before somewhere.
I've talked before about how whiteness will demonize fashion from other cultures to steal them and then repackage them. And this trend of white girls denouncing the hot Cheeto girl aesthetic is a perfect example. The elements of this aesthetic: a clean face, slick back hair, gloss lips with gold jewelry, typically paired with a t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, has been repackaged as the clean girl aesthetic. Clean girl aesthetic into your search bar. The hashtag is filled with white, thin, affluent women who have become the face of an aesthetic that has been a staple for women in Black and Latin American communities for decades. And now these women get to capitalize off selling the products to achieve a look that came in part from women in communities of color just making do with what they had. And to further separate this look from its roots, whiteness has completely diluted the aesthetic, going from bold to minimal, in an effort to make it fit into the image that whiteness upholds. And this trend of white women shedding themselves of this aesthetic will do nothing but further demonize the women in communities of color who continue to wear it.
The clean girl aesthetic is all the rage right now, with her slicked back hair, glossy lips, and gold jewelry. But this look isn't exactly new. Today it's attributed to celebrities like Hailey Bieber and Bella Hadid. But all of these style choices have been staples among Black, South Asian, and Latino women for decades. According to Impact, the problem isn't that non-Black and non-brown women are using a clean girl aesthetic. The problem is that slicked back hair, gold hoops, and clear lip gloss are being treated as a new aesthetic white women created. Black and brown women are rightfully frustrated, especially because historically this look was not considered acceptable. In fact, it was deemed trashy or ghetto. It's hard to see something they were bullied for suddenly becoming trendy thanks to white women.
And also, like, the Hailey Bieber nails trend, the lip combos. Black girlies have been doing brown liner and gloss since the dawn of time, I'm pretty sure. Really, it was like, I think when I first kind of knew about it very heavily was like the early 2000s, but we have been doing that since forever. And you mean to tell me as soon as a white girl comes in and does it, that it's now something that is considered so trendy and so cute? Like, please.
We gotta talk about this Hailey Bieber brownie glazed lip. This look right here was not invented by Hailey Bieber and should not be associated with her. And this style of lip lining comes from Latinas, Chicanas, and Black women. Like, the makeup industry just got a little bit inclusive in the past 10 years, if that. And so many Black women and Latinas did not have lip colors that looked good on them because they had darker skin. So we turned to makeup products like eyeliner or eyebrow pencil and pioneered a look that many people outside of the Black and Latina community called ghetto. Right up until you saw it on a white woman. Weird how that keeps happening. And I'm not saying Hailey Bieber cannot do this lip look. I'm saying she didn't make it up. She shouldn't get the credit for it. Give credit where credit is due. Brown lined lips, the boxer braids, Kardashian braids, clean girl aesthetic. White women finding fame, fortune, clout, notoriety in taking styles from Black and Latina communities. Those same styles that got us called ghetto and trashy.
I feel like so much so, we are so heavily made fun of the way that we do things up until somebody that does not look like us does it. And then all of a sudden, it is just the greatest thing ever. And I simply cannot wrap my head around a reason why, except for anti-Blackness. It's gotta be anti-Blackness or drugs, one of the two. Like, come on now. And so before we go out of this, I want to read another excerpt. This is from a textbook, I believe. And when I found this particular, it's not an article. It's actually, I guess it technically is an article, but it looked like it's out of a textbook. When I was reading this, I just felt so like, It's titled Ain't Got Enough Money to Pay Me Respect, Blackfishing, Cultural Appropriation, and the Commodification of Blackness. And one of the things that it said a little bit further into the article is, rather than being a successful integration of Black people into the public sphere, the commodification of Black culture is a superficial show of tokenized representation that serves to obscure the ways in which this process has not only failed to create deep social changes, but has effectively enacted existing power dynamics. This becomes particularly evident once questions of intellectual property and ownership are brought into play. This excerpt not only highlights the characteristics of cultural appropriation described earlier, namely the power relations and decontextualization inherent to the process, it also points out how blackfishing is a more insidious form of the practice. White women are appropriating Black women's features to appropriate Blackness in itself. As was discussed, Black womanhood has been essentialized into the Black female body in a way that is curated to be consumed by white audiences. Insofar as the white gaze is concerned, the Black female body and its parts, lips, hair, butts, skin, are Blackness at its core. Thus, by doting on these features, white women are taking this Blackness onto themselves with the goal of profiting financially from it. Just like Christina Aguilera, they can choose to remove this Blackness from their person in a context where whiteness would be more beneficial. Guys, please. I know I'm not crazy. Sorry, please. Somebody please in the comments tell me I'm not crazy, because I just know for sure that I'm not crazy. And later on in this article, essay, this excerpt, it goes on to talk about Ariana Grande's 7 Rings, and it says this about it. Her representation is the result of a series of conscious choices to commodify and domesticate Blackness by curating it through her own body and self, which she can only do because as a white person, she has the privilege to select which parts of Black culture and experience she wishes to engage with. The parts she chooses are the ones that can make her money. And so in talking about this, I really do want to bring to the forefront the fact that I feel like part of it can be ignorance, but I feel like there is so much harm in not knowing and not trying to find out. I think with as many people that can call you out on the internet and that can speak out about it and say something, as much of that is pushed out there, I think it is also just as easy to go and do the research and to figure out how you can be someone that plays less into commodifying Black culture and more into uplifting Black culture in a way that brings attention to the fact that this is something that you have drawn inspiration from. Because I know I talk to a lot of people about this, and a lot of the times they say, well, like, you know, how could these people know? How could they know that they're getting XYZ thing from Black culture? It's like, babe, you had to have gotten inspiration from somewhere. Like, that junk did not just come out of thin atmosphere. It came from somewhere. Whether that be off of Pinterest, whether that be somewhere on the internet, Google Images, whether that be on a TV show, it had to have come from somewhere. And I think it is so easy to just acknowledge where you have gotten it from rather than to just pass everything off as someone being ignorant. Because I think it is less accountable to consider someone as being ignorant and to literally just have them say where they drew the inspiration from in the first place. And so the last things that I kind of want to talk about to wrap up this video are a series of things: expected servitude, white guilt, and erasure. Because I feel like they are all very, very important aspects whenever it comes to this conversation of the gentrification, commodification of Black culture, because they all play a huge role. I don't know what else to say, guys. I literally don't know what else to say. But the reason why I bring up expected servitude is because I want to talk about the content creator pay and wage gap whenever it comes to Black creators versus non-Black creators. I feel like brands certainly love to use our likeness. They certainly love to use our audience and our engagement in order to get their stuff promoted, in order to get their stuff across, but a lot of the times they are not willing to pay us our rates. They are not willing to give us what we are worth. A lot of the times we have to fight, we have to pull teeth, we have to beg to be paid our rate. And whenever it comes to white creators, we know they do not have to do those things. There have been multiple white creators in the past couple of weeks that have been speaking out and that have been coming out talking about how they understand fundamentally that brands do not give them as hard of a time whenever it comes to paid sponsorships and collaborations as they give to Black creators. And I think as well as paid collaborations, PR packages as well, because a lot of the times you have to consider who is in power in the situation.
Yesterday I made a video about the systemic racism basically that's in like PR and gifting to influencers, how like a lot of influencers who get sent really good PR are white, and I tried to explain why they're all white. And it's because a lot of times the people who send them the PR and gifting look just like them. The people who work at the brands look just like them. One thing I didn't say in the last video, which I'm kind of like disappointed in myself for not mentioning, is why you're not getting PR. I try to surround myself with a lot of different types of people, but when you're in the social media space, what do you see time and time again? Skinny white bitches. And the business of working in social media is relatively new. I'm talking the girls who work at the brands, the girls who run social media at the brands. That is a relatively new job, and a lot of times they're still not paying those girls well. And what I've experienced is that a lot of the girls who run the social media for brands are white women. Why are they white women? Because there's tons of prejudice in fashion, in fitness, in food. There's also tons of different barriers of entry that we don't even realize. How much money it costs to get a 4-year degree, to even get these jobs, to run social media at a brand, at a big brand. Who can afford to do that? Rich people. Who's rich? White people. So when you think about who sends out the PR, you have to think about the people at the companies who's deciding the influencers that get PR. And you have to think about their prejudices, what their For You page looks like, the people they follow, the people they want to gift to. There is so much inherent prejudice, racism, whatever, even in getting PR.
And whenever it comes to that, of course, brands want to get their products promoted and pushed out, and they're going to go to the people that they feel like can do the best in getting these things promoted and pushed out. And whenever it comes to Black people, you see that we have higher levels of engagement, we have more loyal audience and supporters, but usually we have the lowest visibility. Or we could have content that does the same exact numbers as a non-Black creator, yet we don't get half the opportunities, or we're not pushed out nearly as much into the algorithm. And that says a lot to me. It should say a lot to you. It says something about how people expect us to do so much more in order to get so much less whenever it comes to the work that we do, whenever it comes to the trends that we create, whenever it comes to Blackness in and of itself. It is such an idea that people can take from without giving anything back. And then on top of that, you have the white guilt and the accusation of gatekeeping. People have told us that we are not allowed to gatekeep anything within our culture, that it should just be, you know, come as you please, take what you want. Everything is just a free-for-all. And then they gaslight us and tell us that we are crazy or that we're being over dramatic whenever we decide that we want to speak out about something and actually express the way we feel about the way in which our culture is being stolen, and we are being actively devalued for something that other people that don't look like us, and by don't look like us I mean non-Black people, are being praised and pedestalized for.
This is coming from a Haitian girl. The fact that y'all have normalized invalidating Black American culture to the point that a white lady is telling a Black girl that she has no culture because she was born and raised in America. Excuse me? Did the rest of the diaspora? I'm from Haiti. Haitian people are originally from where? Africa. You would never tell me I don't have a culture, because my people build our culture from the ground up. Just because Black American culture is not seen in the traditional sense the way y'all see the rest of the world's culture does not mean they don't have a culture. Culture starts from somewhere, correct? They have their own dialect of English the same way Jamaican people do. Y'all don't question it. They have their own styles, head wrap, things of that nature, the same way every other culture do. But y'all question it? Y'all questioning it. They learn how to make food specific to them because y'all would not even give them real food, and they still made a whole meal out of it. The way y'all invalidate Black Americans to the point is ridiculous. Half the cultures in the world were had to be rebuilt because of colonization, but you want to question Black Americans? Come on now. Be for real.
I hate it when a bitch says, what is acting Black? Using a Black scent, using AAVE, aka slang, aka ebonics, wearing hairstyles and clothing that were popularized by Black people, for Black people, using hip-hop and Black cinema as a way to connect and be at close proximity to Black people. And while all Black people do not participate in those things are still Black culture. So when a Black person tells you that they don't want your participating in it, they are well within their right.
And again, there's this other idea of ignorance, not knowing, and not trying to find out, which is almost just as equally as harmful. And then finally, I want to talk about erasure, because this is something that lays really heavy on my heart. I know I've said a lot of things in this video lay heavy on my heart, but this is something that does actually lay very heavy on my heart, because I feel like if everyone takes everything from Black culture and leaves us with nothing, then where do we stand and where do we land as people who have had to create a culture from the ground up, being that we were literally swiped from our motherland, put on a boat, and dragged over here and left with nothing for the most part? Because if everyone has access to our culture and just can take as they please, then nothing about it is special to us or specific to us anymore. And then there's this idea of whitewashing everything that Black people do, everything that Black people wear, everything that Black people say, in order to make it more palatable for a wider white audience.
On the topic, I hate when people are like, why do Black people or Black Americans want to gatekeep Blackness and Black culture so much? That question infuriates me because it's just so fucking disingenuous and purposefully obtuse. Not only is Black culture just across the diaspora appropriated, but like my ancestors as a Black American were literally stripped from their land, from their culture, from their ethnic roots, brought over here and had to create a new culture while in bondage. And the same people who put us in bondage feel like that they have a right to that culture the same way that they felt they had a right to take us in the first place. So I really don't give a fuck about the, oh, you want to gatekeep Blackness, oh, you want to, absolutely the fuck I do. My people, my ancestors are amazing enough and beautiful enough and magical enough to even create a beautiful culture in the midst of trauma and bondage, and you think that you can have access to that? That sounds like the audacity of your ashy crusty ancestors.
When you say all cultures are meant to be shared, it just shows your entitlement, because you feel like you have the right to access every single part of every single culture, regardless of how sacred or culturally significant it is. Also, when you say a culture cannot own something, because ownership implies access only with permission, and you feel like you have the right to access it without a culture's permission. And when your entitlement is checked by a culture saying no, you resort to gaslighting as a way to justify disrespecting the boundaries a culture has set. That's why you try to convince Black people that it's just hair and our styles have no cultural significance. You'll try to convince us that because one culture doesn't care, we shouldn't either, even though we have a very different history and experience. You also try to make us dismiss the racism, discrimination, blackfishing, and profiting of Black culture that have led us to create a specific boundary. And of course, you like to act like we gatekeep our entire culture, even though we've been known to share our music, our food, our entertainment, our fashion, and so much more. And then you'll try to convince us that we're the problem, that we're racist, that we want everything to be separate just because we set a few boundaries out of the multitude of things we share of our culture with society. And this is all due to the generational and historical mindset of not liking the word no. That's the entire reason that colonization happened. And see, it starts off as sharing, then it goes to stealing, then it goes to erasure. That's why we're just finding out now that Elvis stole songs from Black artists, and why something comes out every other day that something was actually made or started by a person of color. So you can say those things if you want. I'm just letting you know what type of person it makes you look like.
And sometimes I honestly feel like it's a punishment for taking up too much space in society. Because again, there are things that we are heavily demonized for that other groups of people are praised for, and it's things that they are taking straight from out of our culture. Because again, they want all of the Blackness and none of the struggle. This other article that I read on the Daily Trojan, and it's called The Afterword: White People Take Everything from Black Culture but the Burden. And one thing that really stood out to me about this was when the author said, the enduring influence of Black culture in America, as well as white people's enduring exploitation of it, is not a matter of opinion, it is a fact. Public figures like the Kardashians and Billie Eilish, among many others, successfully exploit Black trends and behaviors, everything from cornrows to the use of a black scent. Listen to Black artists, wear clothing inspired by Black culture, use slang coined by the Black community, capitalize on traditionally Black beauty trends that their very pioneers have been persecuted for embracing. Why? Because the business model is such that Black culture sells when white people hijack it. So to end off this video, I kind of want to leave you guys with a couple of ending questions in order to just kind of summarize everything that we have talked about, because I just feel like this was a very heavy topic. It kind of took me a little while to get through, a lot of reading, a lot of reflecting, a lot of everything. So I kind of want to leave you guys with this, and you guys can talk to me about this in the comments if you want to, and if you have any other thoughts about anything that I've talked about in today's video. And so the first question, I had to write them down because I'm not gonna remember, child. I'm not gonna remember. But the first question is, what are some potential solutions in order to combat the gentrification and commodification of Black culture? How is your perception of Black people formed? Through personal experience or primarily through media, and how does that affect your relationship with Black culture? And finally, should Black culture be a free-for-all for anyone to benefit from at the demise of the very people who have no choice but to be of this culture? So yes, that is all for this video. I thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment this emoji, that way I know you made it this far in the video. Also, like I said before, if you had anything you want to add to this conversation, that you want to talk about in regards to this conversation, let me know in the comments. And if you like this video and you made it this far and you want to see more content from me, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, as well as click the notification bell so you never miss another one of my uploads. You can also follow me on all of my social media. Everything will be on the screen and link down below. And you can also subscribe to my second channel, which is my beauty and lifestyle channel. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. Don't forget to be the light, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.